I keep thinking of Human Boy. Are we in a new stage? Are we in a new stage? Has the golden age passed? My name's Adrian Pocobelli, Artist Journal, July 28th, 2025. Broadcasting from the non-space of the mind. In real time, at least for me. Perhaps a little delayed in time and space. For you, my friends, my name's Adrian Pocobelli. I think I just said that. Anyways, welcome back. Welcome back. So we have Mishiyasu. But this is the question that has been haunting me all weekend. Is the golden age over? And so we're going to see a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence, is how I would call it, as to why that might be the case. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there is a sense to me, as money enters the space, that the innocence of the space is, to a certain degree, disappearing. And this is inevitable, I would argue. This is inevitable. And there are good sides to it, too. It's good if people are getting paid for their art, and it's just a new phase. But increasingly, it feels like gone are the innocent days of, Kurt Hustle Collective for 15 Tezos, 10 Tezos, and it stays there for 2 weeks, and that sort of thing. Right? Those, as Human Boy said, it's bittersweet. So there are good sides to it. But I wonder that to myself. So anyways, let's continue. So Mishiyasu, quite interesting. It comes back to this whole idea of prolificness. Right? Mishiyasu is pretty prolific. Let's see, and I have a billion tabs, by the way. So let's just quickly look and see if this works. I'm on phone internet. So we're taking kind of great risks here. Look at this. This looks pretty cool here, too. Not sure if I've seen this. All to say, Mishiyasu, oh yeah, I remember the jars, right? And so, very cool. This is an open edition, still available. And so, all to say, you put out a lot of work, you're more likely. It's like Brian Tracy on Success. The more things you do, the more likely you're going to hit something. And it couldn't be truer than in visual art. The more work you make, the more masterpieces you're going to make, so to speak. So here, a pretty cool work here by Mishiyasu. Kind of simple. There's just a je ne sais quoi. I don't know what it is about it. You see what looks like a figure here in Mishiyasu's trademark, drawing. How would you even call that? Almost it's like a rainbow. It's like a fuzzed out rainbow, right? You see, or a spectrum. Maybe it's more like a spectrum, which is kind of like a rainbow, but the spectrum has the white inside. So not exactly sure, but it kind of looks like someone who's just taken a nap outside. But then you have this almost like they're on a cloud or something, some kind of abstract, some sort of abstraction that they are a part of, so to speak. And then you see all these wonderful textures, a GIF, it moves, and everything. So cool work here. Soyo, Memories in the Wind. And it does evoke memories. That kind of fuzzy texture, so to speak, does evoke that kind of hazy, it is one of the great titles of all time, The Persistence of Memory, with Salvador Dali, in the sense that it's like, try and think of a memory and how you see memories, right? And as far as Dali's concerned, the persistence of memory, you might even call the persistence of identity to a certain degree, because what are you? What is your brain? It's like all of this, these impressions, right, have been made, and then you are the you are the result to a large degree. You have some agency, perhaps, debatable point, but if you believe in consciousness and not just in the, who was it, La Maîtrise, in the man-machine, l'homme, I don't know what they called it in French. It was a famous, not to get too off topic, and we have a ton to get through here, but a famous, it wasn't a dialogue, I don't think, but a tract, a famous document from the 18th century, late 18th century, La Maîtrise, kind of a To a certain degree, it was for lack of a better term, kind of a bad boy kind of document of the late 18th century, where he posited that everything was made of matter. Basically, he was a materialist. And so all of your sense of consciousness, to bring it back to our conversation, your memories and everything, this is all just matter, right? That in a sense, agency, with the implication that agency doesn't exist. You are simply matter, at work, right? So who knows? It almost brings us to the AI debate. Here's another, it's kind of weird, actually, on the market. Only one sold to Neon Monk, and then no others sold, even though here, thank you for the gift, and one sent to Little Cakes, but then the rest were not available, so maybe unlisted, I don't know. Who knows? Dry throat dreams, getting undrinkable water with the brain. So we're kind of back to this psychological impressionism. I mean, what is this, right? Kind of interesting. I mean, again, we're almost like when I discuss NUV 1914 being challenging, I would definitely kind of group Mishi Asu in a similar kind of category where if you weren't familiar with the artist and the artist's work, you might go, okay, that's kind of weird, and move on. But if you are familiar with the artist's work, then you see there is a method to the madness, so to speak. There is something that is being investigated quite consistently and quite narrowly. We're back to the laboratory. The aesthetic laboratory, so to speak. And so all sorts of interesting things. I mean, as you see here, just a little drawing here, and could be just improvisations. But hard to say, but all to say, a pretty interesting work. More example of the interesting creativity with art on the blockchain. The interesting, just another example of great creativity and sophistication with art on the blockchain, shall we call it. Dry Throat Dreams, edition of 1, selling for $20. So nice pickup. This was hilarious. Time A. Watching Pocobelli's Artist Journal with friends. So, of course, time 8 in Taiwan, if I am not mistaken here. So, gotta love that. That made my day. Thank you for the picture. And there's the Kurt Hustle Collective and the dinosaur. Fabulous. I love how this show is featuring the Kurt Hustle Collective at the start. I feel like I'm on the right track when I see little images like this. Comments last episode. Says wonderful work by NUV 1914. Thank you for the support. Let us see what we have here. Do we have comments? Nicholas Dietrich. Great show, Adrian, as always. And thanks for the mention. Yeah, we have that purple work is actually finished. Yes, using the opacity setting with just one color is incredibly liberating. It allows focus on the structure and dynamics of the image. Interesting. Yeah, it is. It's kind of like a minimal decision. A decision towards minimalism. It's also very satisfying when you can shift the palette of the whole piece in one go, finding the correct ambiance for the scene. That is interesting too. I assume talking about different works. It's also very satisfying when you can shift, or maybe Nicholas Dietrich is thinking on his own, when he's working on it, he can turn that purple work orange and it's kind of a completely different work. And so he's probably going through his color slider, one assumes, perhaps, finding the correct ambiance. Very interesting accord. Again, a very digital situation. You have your slider with the color. So anyways, thanks for the comment. We will look at your work again, the finished work here. I believe it's 3/4 of the way through the show. 8 Septillion, another great episode. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. Kyle Flemmer, so glad to hear that Tornado Rodriguez will have a series in the Pocobelli collection. Indeed. I'm thrilled as well. It's going to be on chain. We figured it out. Thank you, everybody. I have a quick tweet on that coming up. Thank you for those people that weighed in. You have to do the list invite when you have the gallery, and then you can bring in basically anything. So that is super exciting. The Denirus, you should have messed with the gallery by saying isn't life itself a scam? Right, so referring to the gallery who is saying, aren't NFTs a scam? I think, I have a couple of tabs on this where we're seeing weird activity and you just go, it kind of makes you wonder. Yeah, you wonder, because you see the weird activity. It's like, put it this way. It's not like the reputation of NFTs being a scam is completely unearned. based on market activity and the dynamics of this crypto market, as one could argue we have some circumstantial evidence for coming up. So it's kind of interesting. So I'm, in a sense, I'm sympathetic with people to a certain degree. Ironically, here I am 440, episodes later on doing a show basically on NFTs, which I don't like to call them that. Someone else is calling them digital objects. James Bloom, we have a tab coming up here. But seriously, I would discuss the topic by saying digital collectibles, digital tokens, art coins. I would definitely not use art coins. I guess it's a word on the making since NFTs can be anything, not solely art. Yeah, I think we just call it digital art. And if you really need to dial down on the terminology, it's basically a digital object, a token, right? A unique token. As my joke is, you do a show on NFTs. It's like my joke is, yes, it uses it uses the same technology, right? I mean, that's my kind of stock answer. I forgot that time, but I mean, it's kind of a reminder to remember that because it's actually kind of helpful. Let's continue also on X. Strange thing, object.com is 100% the best place to start as an artist. Supportive community, affordable, best UI, a team that cares about all artists, curates from pages of less known artists, no exclusion, turns artists into collectors. So strange thing, yeah, it is a good place to start. I mean, as I say, I think I said last time, it's kind of a missed opportunity if you're not there, just because there is a depth in the collector base there. I am multi-chain at the end of the day, though, and proudly so. And you can't be loyal, unfortunately, to a chain. Like some people are like, oh, I'm object forever. I don't think you should be loyal to anybody because in a sense, they're not, these chains and a lot of these collectors and whomever are not going to be loyal to you. Okay, so be careful who you decide to just throw, but as Strange Thing says, though, great place to start. But we're kind of back to the scam thing. Right? Go in with maximum skepticism and just assume that this isn't going to work and then proceed accordingly and go, well, okay, it seems to be working a little bit here, but maybe I'll diversify. Because you kind of have to, I would argue. And that's kind of true for all things, all investments in life, so to speak. Nikki Rorschach, I don't feel like one should share the deep part of the process. So referring to our very interesting question here, should you share your art process? I think a very interesting question. I don't feel like one should share the deep part of the process. Indeed. It's like you can show a little bit, but you have to be ready with whatever you show. I've learned this the hard way on this show. Whatever you show, if I'm going to talk about Ballard, then all of a sudden, there's all this other stuff that starts happening, right? If I'm going to talk, and on you could go, right? I show little bits here and there, how to apply ink and the pencil, but I believe in the magic in the mind. It's much better that way. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. Like, ideally, what you're doing is difficult enough where it's just too hard to copy, but in the digital world, it's kind of closer to plagiarism that happens, I would argue. And in the universities, like plagiarism, you get kicked out. Like, there's no pity. Like, you get put in front of a committee and they decide whether they're going to, throw you out forever and have a stain on your on your academic record. That's plagiarism in the real world, right? So let's continue. So yeah, I agree. Thanks for the mention, Thousand Lands. Love this piece. There's a new one, TWA. We're going to see it. I thought of that, of course, the famous TWA Flight 800. So anyways, love this series. Thousand Lands is developing it very nicely. Ed Woods, I've not watched the video yet, but from the title, my answer is no. From the title question, my answer is no. I think it's super interesting. Like, again, you have to assume the worst, right? I am someone who loves Brian Tracy. If you're ever feeling down on your life and you feel lacking direction and whatever, listen to Brian Tracy. The great life coach. I call him the original life coach, frankly. And on that whole point, I see Brian Tracy and the life coach thing. That is like a branch of American pragmatism, as far as I'm concerned, philosophically speaking. Pragmatic philosophy for your life. That it's like a classic American kind of philosophy. And I'm Canadian, so I'm not like valorizing and saying how great that is because it's American. It's just what it is. So I'm going to assume the best kind of person, but I think you have to be realistic, though. And if you're going to share, you have to assume the worst, unfortunately. Tornado Rodriguez, the secret is out. So very exciting. Fabulous. Tornado Rodriguez has worked her heart out on this series, and it shows. So I'm very excited to present this to you. I assume we'll mint it probably on Friday, something like that. I will have, and actually show note, I'm going to have shows probably till Monday, until the Tornado show, and then after that, I'll probably take off 2 weeks, actually, to just take it easy, take in some summer. We've been going pretty hard here through the summer. Show note there. So anyways, very excited for this. Walk. Great to hear from you. Such a brilliant, one of the great artists in the world, in my opinion, one of the great new voices, one of the great artists of his generation. Walk. So get the works while you can. They're still available cheap. Dance Vitar, the starting still life is like nothing I've seen before. What an awesome episode. Thank you, Dance Vitar, this long-standing supporter of this show. And I'm really glad you said that, because I think it's great, but I'm not sure everybody will necessarily think this, so I'm glad you feel that way, because for me, it just leaped off the screen. Peter the Roman, great show. Thanks, Adrian. There's something really fascinating about AI objects becoming physical. This is fascinating, too. This wonderful reversal of Peter the Roman. I've always longed for these sculptures to be real, yet find solace in their perpetual JPEG unreality. The tech opens an exciting new chapter in sculpture for sure. Exciting times. I completely agree. Conceptually could be incredibly interesting, which is starting a sculpture from a photo that you made with AI. Which is what Peter the Roman seems to be doing, as we saw the first kind of 3D, and then you use 3D. Fascinating. So glad you appreciate it. This is hilarious. The side note had me rolling. Thank you, David Lockhart, showing a very good-looking Pocobelli with his wonderful date there at the movie theater wearing Crocs. So hilarious on last episode. Thank you, David. That is funny. Ariel, 444. Here we go. Yeah, now we're on 445, my friend. And maybe that's a special number. Jan Lucas Magone, 444. I never even thought of it. Thank you for pointing that out, my friends. Claude S., even if I want to, the process itself begins with awful things like societal pressure, angst, anger, expressing itself into millions of bits I can barely remember. I sometimes step back and wonder what made what it is in front of me. What the heck made what it is in front of me? If I showed the whole thing, people would vanish into the pixel abyss. The clouds would settle on top of their apartments. I love it. And some would run for the hills in madness. But I keep it safely tucked away, that process. Wonderful. Wonderful. Glow quietly, GM, and a happy Friday, Pocobelli. Great to hear from you. Anacondo, thank you for the comment. Shin, I really like the concept that Eli Shine brought, as it's a bit parallel. So sharing, works in progress. As it's a bit parallel to something I've been tossing around in my head for a while, playing devil's advocate with one-of-one works. You don't actually own the original, and that one is a copy of the original. Playing devil's advocate with one-of-one works, you don't actually own the original, and that one is a copy of the original. So, yeah, I guess it depends if a one-of-one work is digital first. If it's digital first, I would consider that the original. So I'm not exactly sure, but if it's a physical, it's definitely not the original. If it's basically a photo of a physical, if I understand you right, let me know if I don't. Thank you for the comment. Do music. I believe an artist should do or not do something like sharing his or her process. An artist does, and she does as she feels. Indeed. So yeah, it's everybody's personal choice, right? Andrea Ballestero, could depend on the kind of work you make too. Like, if you're a glitch artist, kind of to a certain degree, it makes more sense. And like I was saying, AI, it kind of makes more sense. Because with glitch, you're disrupting the technology. So it kind of helps to know what the technology is that you're disrupting, right? It actually adds value. But if you're exporting between different apps and doing all this crazy stuff, should you show all that? It's a debatable point. Interesting thoughts. Andrea Ballestero, speaking about preparatory materials, Polish pyramids, and on-chain minting, I've often been thinking about the fact that with digitization, we're somehow losing control of our memories. And not everything makes it on the internet. I was just experiencing that yesterday. I'm still more or less able to locate the negatives of photos my dad took 50 years ago, but always struggling to find pictures I took with my phone last week, if I need to, lost in the chaos of files, and actually stored in a server somewhere. It's almost like this digital amnesia. I kind of know what you mean. I think a lot of us would relate to that, if not everybody. Who knows how archaeology will look like in a couple of thousand years with all these photos? But if it will be based on physical objects only, to reconstruct our era is not going to be an easy task. Great insight. Venta, I create with the trackpad on my laptop too, an invaluable tool. Simple but effective, allowing us to use the finger directly for expression, a contemporary adaptation on methodology stretching all the way back to prehistoric cave painting. Exactly. Cool to be in the club with Nov 1914, the Trackpad Club. Indeed. Very cool. Nov 1914, great to hear from you, our wonderful artist who started the show, Tornado Rodriguez. So the secret is out. The show will be on the Pocobelli collection. And just wanted to thank everybody here. I need to send Tornado a list invite. We did a test. Of course, I follow Kika. That is a glitch on X when you load a lot of tabs, as I have here. So of course I follow her, and yeah, you need to send you a list invite. And so I did, and it works. So fabulous. Greg Nick Shumika, appreciate the highlight, Pocobelli. Did you look for fauve color? Yes, we discussed fauve maybe on episode 100, if I had to guess, and yeah, the wild ones for their crazy use of color. I use fauve as a link to fauvism and the fauves as in wild. I think using productivity software for art is a bit wild, so not referring to the color. But there is a lot of self-irony baked in, so definitely a bit cheeky. Post-dial-up is my new preferred term for the recent digital art on the blockchain. I mean, I think a lot of people here know how I feel about these post words, and we're going to see more in a second. Like post, for me, only worked once. And maybe there's another example somewhere out there, but it only worked with postmodernism. Because it really did kind of capture something, but you've seen it used over and over since, and like we saw like post AI, we've seen post internet, and to me, all of these, like post internet wasn't even used properly, after the internet, but what they meant is after the start of the internet. So they called it post internet. It's not even like correct semantics. So rather than post dial-up, I think this is like the wrong approach. I think the approach should be what it is, not what it is comes after. Again, postmodernism was a special case. And ever since, because postmodernism sounds kind of cool, everybody's trying to hop on the post bandwagon, but it never really wears, I would argue. And we're going to see more of that in a second. Post-dial-up is my new preferred term for the recent digital art on the blockchain. It is, I don't know why everybody's so concerned about, it is a bit more specific and less corny than post-internet. And yeah, the art on the blockchain now is quite different. And again, mine's not an ism, like my grouping. I just call it the second generation of digital art. I proudly have it not an ism. It's just what it is, I would argue, and it's just kind of self-evident. Post-brush is next best, so we're going to look at this in a second. Semantically, we're going to take a look. Why do we even need labels and categories? It is just such a human thing striving for patterning, a bit silly. I completely agree. Impressionism wasn't like something that the Impressionists came out and declared and said we're Impressionists. I don't think they even liked it. The same was the case with pop art. They didn't like it, right? And Ballard hated it. And he was like friends with like Eduardo Paolozzi and was kind of went to these early shows. So I agree. I mean, we'll look at Post-Brush now. So Post-Brush, this came out when I was on vacation. I was glad I was on vacation. And again, I'm not, this is being brought to my attention. My philosophy is just like the non-fungible modernism. Everybody should do and call themselves whatever the heck they want. But if you're going to ask me about it and say, okay, maybe I should call myself Post-Brush, then let's look. And here I am. Post-brush painting, so this is RJ's term. Post-brush painting, a form of digital art defined by the manual, expressive, and software-conscious act of painting using digital tools in place of the traditional physical brush, but without simulating it. Instead, embracing the textures, errors, and limitations of the medium. So, a form of digital art defined by the manual, expressive... So, in place of the traditional, so basically everything other than the brush other than simulated brushes, right? So all the painters, all the digital artists out there that use digital brushes, you are not included in this term post-brush. You are simply brush, I guess. And so I guess so this is a definition. When you look at the actual word, though, post-brush, what does it mean? It means after brush. So if we go back, I mean, you can find assemblages, so to speak, in the Murs sculptures of Dada. You could also argue Warhol with the screen printing is that post-brush? You could, is Wade Guyton and the inkjet printer, is that post-brush? Is John Baldessari, again, inkjet, or Richard Prince? Well, he's also using a brush. No, this is digital, but there's nothing in this word that says digital or that says something. So again, I would just say, I don't know if the words reflect the meaning that is being intended. Let's continue. We have a update 2, more on post-brush or going degen mode, degenness, and I think this is actually very helpful. Impulsive risk-taking, ironic detachment, a willingness to embrace volatility and failure as part of a self-aware identity. So referring to crypto speculation. Playful nihilism, which I think we're getting closer here, toward value and meaning, the bypass and corruption of traditional financial systems. Post-brush artness, acceptance of an emphasis on visual, and we see the shaking hands here, on visual degradation, glitches, compression artifacts, awkward software artifacts, low res. I mean, this sounds like glitch, actually. So gradients, the bypass and corruption of traditional aesthetic systems. I mean, other than gradients, to me, this looks like a definition of glitch. And it's quite different from the first definition of the so-called post-brush. So, I put it this way. I actually think I prefer to call things what they are rather than define them by what they come after, so to speak. I think postmodernism was a special case, so to speak. And so, so again, you say something's post-brush. People are still using brushes. You have Roberto Nava still using a brush, and there is an implication as well here in the term, just to unpack it further, that post-brush is somehow superior to if you're using a virtual brush. This is post-brush. There is a kind of light implication there. And so, I'm not a fan of the term. And I was also thinking to myself, like, go to a bar and tell people you're a post-brush artist. I grew up in Saskatchewan. I'm not sure that would fly. It borders, and not to be too hard, but actually I will be a little bit hard here on RJ soon. It borders, it's kind of pretentious, actually, is my kind of criticism. And would Ballard ever? No, not in a billion years. And not that that's the final thing, but Ballard to me is probably the most stylish intellect of the 20th century. Actually, unquestionably. Still actually, celebrated, but still actually largely unrecognized for his contributions, so to speak. And there was more here. So I don't like for the fact that, so it gets kind of intellectually skeuomorphic language of brush, paint, and canvas within the digital contents. I think digital art will only truly be standing on its own when the language is standing on its own. So any notions of how the language might be doing in regards to, say, creating a visual image by using lines and colors on a screen with a mouse trackpad. And I'm not sure we can open that. If one isn't painting digitally, are they at least drawing digitally? Is drawing the act of that? It's the gesture. The gesture is what it shares, like finger painting and painting with a brush. It's a gesture. It's the human body being integrated. Right. So all to say, Daggy D weighs in. So, I mean, I've been kind of holding off on kind of discussing this. The latent nihilism is always a hard pass for me, and as framed by the likes of Vermeulen. So again, in that sense of hope, I think it's why so much degen culture left me wanting much deeper. I wonder whether that is actually the other way around. Expressed nihilism hides a latent sense of hope, of like jouissance in the breakdown. So throwing out the post-structural words, Deggy D to the rescue. An interesting artist dealing with these topics is Jen Ficruzzi, because of course Rural Idol mentioned metamodernism, which I've never heard of. Now, in terms, which we'll bring up in a second, actually, this is metamodernism. So it's getting all over the place here. Here's Jan Ficruzzi being discussed here, and jouissance. So I asked ChatGPT, as far as my definition of jouissance, which kind of, it's like kind of like pleasure of an almost erotic nature, as far as I understand the definition. So I put, what is jouissance in the context of French critical theory? And the answer is actually pretty hilarious. A complex, multi-layered term that roughly translates to enjoyment, but with significant theoretical depth that goes beyond simple pleasure. Plays a crucial work in the role of Jacques Lacan, Roland Barthes, and Julia Kristeva, Jean-François Lyotard, who wrote The Postmodern Condition, of course. But here we get this great table. Thinker, meaning of jouissance, excessive pleasure beyond the pleasure principle, tied to the real, transgressive. Okay, blissful, here, according to Roland Barthes, blissful, ecstatic rupture from conventional meaning in texts. From Julia Kristeva, Hélène Zizou, feminine form of pleasure that escapes patriarchal language tied to the body. So, again, when people, I'm quite suspicious of the post-structural, when people start, unloading the post-structural names and start saying, oh, this is, whatever the case might be. And, let's because which one is it then? If it's jouissance, which jouissance is RJ referring to here? And so it all just kind of, and then you just go, what are we talking about here again? I'll never forget. I always bring it back to Ballard. Ballard had this quote of Jean Baudrillard, who he called hilariously, there's this book blurb, it was around the 90s, late 90s. He called him the best French thinker of the last 20 years, was the blurb on the book, J.G. Ballard, which I always thought was like a dig at the rest of the French thinkers, like a ironic dig at the rest of the thinkers going like, this guy is the guy you want to pay attention to, Baudrillard. So anyways, hilarious. I thought there was a joke in there. What is metamodernism? I also asked. Rural Idol's term, just so we all know what we're vaguely what we're talking about, is a cultural and philosophical framework that describes a new sensibility emerging in the 21st century, particularly in response to and beyond postmodernism. It oscillates between aspects of modernism and postmodernism, blending sincerity and irony, hope and doubt, idealism and pragmatism, and structure and deconstruction. So here, so it blends both. So again, then what is it? So it blends both? So I just think, I'm not a fan of this metamodernism thing either, that Rural Idol's bringing up. So I'll just say, these are just my, opinions here, being brought in here by Greg. Now this, again, I'm like, what do we make of this? And I've been holding off really for probably a year of commenting on this, but, this is RJ's work, and it seems to me that he's directly copying Waffles here. This is classic Waffles. Okay, so what are we to make of this? And then you look at and I wonder to myself, is this just playful nihilism? Is this just going, I can copy, and it seems like, because every day I feel like we're going a little closer with RJ towards Waffles to the point where this one was deleted. And you know what this tweet was, which probably many of you saw? That was this. And do you remember how up here there was the kid pixelated thing? Well, that one's been deleted. Okay? And then here's Deggy D saying how great it is. Okay? So, again, to me, there's a bit of a golden age is ending here with all this money coming in the system. And it's sad. The innocence is leaving the scene, I would argue. Feel free to disagree and whatnot. So here it's been changed. And here, even there was like this thing that was going around, which again looked like waffles and was removed. So how far is this going to go? You know, like at least here, I assume the reason it was deleted was because people called him out on it. And he just realized, okay, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And so that's why I'm doing it here, because I feel if I don't do anything, it's just going to continue this continued encroachment where here we're going to get this. And then all of a sudden it's like I was wondering to myself, is Waffles even going to come back? Like, what would you do? You know, you've given this guy a bunch of art and this is the payback, you know? And so like, and frankly, you know, from my side of things, like a year ago, you know, I'm doing my things with the promoted stories using all these different retro pixels. And then all of a sudden it's like the defining characteristic of RJ's work that uses the pixels. It's like, oh, he uses different pixels. And then he has this little drawing thing. So, you know, I'm just calling it out. And people, if that's a problem for people, whatever, that's fine. I want it on the record. Okay, and then he does his Crash series, no sense of like, Pocobelli's been talking about this for 200 episodes, so I thought maybe I would try something related to, no, RJ came up with it all on his own. So I see, like, to me, this is just kleptomaniac behavior, frankly. Okay, and I'm calling it out, and hopefully to put a stop to it, and if he just wants to continue, fine, but I have to put this on the record. And it's kind of like the most tragic, probably, episode of this entire series I've done. It really is. So for me, this is a tragedy. I loved RJ's work. And for me as well, I promoted this guy's work, and then I felt like, oh, and now he's just taking. So yeah, anyways, that's that. Now, continuing on, we have here Taproot's Wizard. Is it just me, or does Taproot's Wizard, speaking of NFT scam, volume look hella fake? Out of nowhere, the volume spikes over 10 BTC volume, while the entire ordinals market barely scrapes 1 BTC. Even the top runes with real liquidity rarely see 5 BTC volume on chain. The rest of the time, dead zero volume flatline. Feels like the whole supply is still sitting in the team's cold wallet, their so-called whitelist sale, zero transparency, closed doors, insider games. So be careful, is what I have to say out here. Roto, here's another scam. So is this reputation, I think we've earned it, frankly, as a NFT. That's why I happily separate art on the blockchain from crypto art. We have to. And the problem is now we're getting all this crypto art money is being pushed into the art on the blockchain scene. And I guess it's inevitable. And it's also to a certain degree, it's a validation. People are like, this stuff's worth money and it's probably inevitable. But again, I say the golden age has ended. It basically feels over. The innocence is gone. And maybe that's okay. We all have to die someday. The golden age had to end someday. That's what I would argue. Let's look here. Another scam. G-Funk pulled off one of the most blatant rugs I've seen in a while. Prominent, as far as I understand, prominent account for years. Raised hundreds of millions with Pixel Vault. Tricked users into swapping punks and GG during the bear. Ends up with 87% of the punk supply and GG is worthless. Starts silently auctioning the punk's vault, but the people notice. Promises proceeds will be used to build the ecosystem. Winds down operations just 22 days later. So pretty brutal. And then we have the coins are coming back. The art coins are coming back. Low liquidity coins on automated market makers with exponential price curves are SHIT coins. You can call them creator coins, culture tokens, internet capital markets, music tokens, AI tokens, or meme coins, but it won't change the toxic fundamentals. It's a zero-sum PvP game of musical chairs. Nobody leaves with more than they came with unless someone else is losing. So if you put an artist token out here, just remember, at everybody who's losing, you decide, okay, I have 10% of the supply and now I want to sell. You know who's losing are the people who bought your Pocobelli coin. So no, I'm not putting out, and if anybody does, like, not me. And if I do it, I'll do it on my own terms where, you know, I'll say that's a subscription, blah, blah, blah. That's the only thing I would reserve the right for. But as far as this whole, like, casino thing, I think it's a terrible PR. You know, and I think you take a lot of risk. And I think people have been hurt, actually, in the last year with it. So, I don't know, everybody's memory seems kind of short here. Again, just my thoughts from over here. And retail gets rinsed by snipers, bundlers, coordinated pumps and dumps. Like, I would just avoid this garbage, from my opinion. Repeatedly pretending you don't know that is disingenuous, delusional, and at best naive for anyone who's been in crypto for more than a year to suggest otherwise. And naive or negligent is actually a better way of putting it. So, as we see here, of course, follow Luke, altcoins are the new PFPs. And he's probably right in more ways than one. DGMD, the setup for a massive NFT boom is so good here. The holders of all the consensus digital art collections that institutional money is likely to go for first are all huge advocates of NFTs in the space. When institutions buy, that liquidity gets recycled back into other collections, driving market cap higher and higher. This is not an extraction scenario. This is a parabola scenario. Let's see. Cosmo de Medici, the next one of one seasons is going to make collection collectors cower. Right, so the hype is building. Jedi Wolf, the next wave of collectors, will bring incredible curation to our space. We'll see many new and remarkable collections assembled from scratch, guided by strong visions, and become an art form in themselves. Simply put, the space has matured a lot, and I'm excited. I agree with everything except for the last line. I don't believe the space has matured a lot. I think it's actually defaulting to its 2021 mentality, actually. I don't think it's matured at all, in fact. I like to think what we did here is actually pretty adult. Yeah. So anyways, let's continue. This is interesting. Another sign of like the shifting landscape here. Verse Advisory and Private Sales, a resource for collectors looking to sell or acquire top-tier digital art. Introducing VerseWorks Advisory. So here, as we're going to see, and something I've been talking about here and there, like I probably have to start my own advisory here, just a side project, just as part of the Pocobelli collection. Just otherwise, everybody else will, you put it this way. Verse is very smart to put this out and actually be kind of one of the first movers here. So good for them. For Verse. And so here it is, tailored art advisory, negotiated deals, market expertise, discretion, and security. So interesting. A changing scene is what we have here. We see Object with all of a sudden this tagline is on their website. It appears I'm destined to remain with Object and Tezos indefinitely. Again, I would not be loyal to any blockchain or platform. I don't think it's in your interest. No other platform offers the same warmth and assurance within its community of artists and creators. Definitely be there. But I wouldn't start making exclusive deals without contracts, frankly. Just a side point on this, since I'm in opinion mode here, I would change this to Art for Everyone is actually far more powerful. That's the McDonald's version of this. Art for everyone. Bringing art to everyone is too wordy. Art for everyone. Boom. Easy and I think communicates more directly. More unsolicited advice from your host here. You guys are very patient and tolerant with me. I appreciate that. Ivan Hugo, where do you get the motivation to keep making art when you have the impression that they don't even want your art on the chain? Yeah, so that is, you know what? It changed, actually. This tweet changed how I actually accumulate. You're going to see a bunch of new artists here, along with some artists that you're familiar with many times here. But it made me change my accumulation, how I aggregate artists here. Because I think this is kind of fair. Because at least for me, and I might say, oh, this is just my private show, who cares? But in a sense, it has a kind of role for whatever that is, just that curator guy, that artist, curator, collector guy who keeps talking and keeps showing up. But for whatever, so put it this way. As far as I'm concerned, and there are many pieces of the puzzle here, and I'm just one piece of this puzzle, message received, actually, in terms of trying to get new artists in. Gatekeeping is heavy when it comes to liking. The, quote, I only interact with what I like speech doesn't make any sense when we see people interacting with the network. The make better art speech also falls flat when we see the different selections of what is good art and not. So now, to be fair, say to myself, when I make a curation, I have to live with it. I have to wear it. It's kind of like post-brush. Like what I'd say to Greg is, yeah, you can call yourself post-brush, but just don't forget, you have to wear it once you do. You can't unspeak it, so to speak. And same with curation. So at the end of the day, I have to make a curation that I can live with. Okay, so, and I am always looking at artists that sometimes I go, oh, finally, here's a work that works with my curation. And my curation doesn't mean that anything outside of it is bad. Right? Like, it's just like, no, this curation is, here's some stuff I found that works with my own kind of aesthetic style, intellectual style at the end of the day. So just in terms of this program, but I understand, because what I bring to the table here is I'm an artist and I know what it's like to be ignored. Okay. And so what I did is I started a show, so there are options for you. Ivan. So, but anyways, I think important points, which is why I highlight them here. Retro Manny, imagine thinking an entire forum is dead because NFT sales are down. So I thought this was kind of funny too. So we were there, in 2022, August 2022, we, surfed through that entire bear market. Networked digital objects. So here, James Bloom with another use of digital objects here. So let's see if this takes, again, a term that we were discussing here many moons ago. Seba Sestero, my first sketchbook. So Seba Sestero going from victory to victory here. So beautiful sketchbook here. Now I assume it's a sketchbook we can draw inside, right? And that's just the cover. Beautiful work. Check this out. Quampa, color composition, MS Paint. What is this? Is this AI? It looks actually like a real thing that has been put on a tiny screen. How cool is this? So I don't know what this is, but Quampa definitely turning heads there. How cool is that? Putting that composition, maybe printing it out very small, if I had to guess, and then putting it on here. This is really cool by Quampa. Hermipe, so just a box with pixelation and Hermipe's brilliant signature. Continuing on, Walk Gummo. So just a beautiful work on yellow paper. Nice move. I assume that's yellow paper and not white paper that's been sprayed down, but not positive on that. But I think that's yellow paper, if I had to guess. Of course, I follow Walk, and this was hilarious, actually. Welcome. Spray painted on the welcome mat. Hilarious in Walk's style. People of Tezos came out. I show a few of these during the episode, but just a few, and I wanted to just basically show them all here, at least in scrolling, so people can see them. There are some brand new people of Tezos here, as you see, Gregorio Zanardi and Jordi Gandul and more. Slava 3. I'm not sure if we're going into last season here. Pinky Blue. I think we're going into last season here. But as you can see, new works, there's Absurdity. So very fun. Demon Ego, Brian McAllister, who I think is the co-founder of Objects. So all to say, new people at Tezos. I picked a few, but I put them later just for basically for curatorial reasons. Okay, let's look at. Let's see if we can look at at Zuozo. Actually, let's let that load up. Yeah, so I'm on limited internet here. And we will... I feel bad. Every time I show Zuozo, it seems, or every second time, and I actually loaded it, and now it's reloading. Okay, so we'll see if it loads on its own. We'll see if it loads on its own, but I don't think it will. So unfortunately... Yeah, let me just try switching internet very quickly here. It has not been acting nice this morning, unfortunately. So let us see, and oh, it is acting a lot nicer. There we go. All right. I think it's going to work. Thank you for your patience. Apologies to Zozo. Wow. Awesome. Love the grid on the sea. Kind of looks like Florida a little bit. One of those freeways over the water. So very cool work there. Summer picnic in the shade. This is Martin Bruce, 400 Tezos. Is that, and we are seeing, maybe we lost our internet already. Anyways, here is Martin Bruce. Gorgeous. Love the flat gray. Interesting composition here. And here, as you see, working with physical seemingly, and always keeping a big surprise here and creating an auction at 400 Tezos. See how it goes. Nov 1914, Otro Vacho. So here, what looks like another work designed for a 16 by 9 television, one assumes, and a beautiful, another gorgeous flower work here with incredibly subtle color. From Nov 1914. Here's No Coincidence. Mr. Bezold picking this one up, a one of one. So again, returning to the flowers and the basket, and that wonderful line that is trademark here that she'll sometimes put across. Here is Juana Pedro, edition of 10. And really gorgeous, kind of almost feeling like a space-themed version. Love the edge here. So it does look like AI, if we had to guess, looking at the edge. Love that frame from Juana Pedro, and doing fabulous, by the way. Selling out like right away at $8.50 and putting out a lot of work and still selling out. A Night Script edition of 10, and then this great kind of frame here. So more cool abstracts from Juana Pedro. Here's No Hygiene. And there's been some very, there's an account that was, we'll see if we can load this. There's been an account that's been posting No Hygiene works just as their own, like another kind of interesting thing. I mean, it's ultimately a compliment, but only indirectly. Ultimately, that person is just like getting growth from posting. Let me go back. I feel like we're lucky that we saw, and let me just bring this up, bring back the phone. I think we're lucky that we saw this Ozo work. Here's No Hygiene. 137 retweets, 579 likes. And the angel in the heart. So cool work here from No Hygiene. Here's another one that was minted, a broken heart. And here a smaller work. So let's see what this offer coming in at 50 Tezos. Here's Gregorio Zanardi, People of Tezos. Really nice digital painting here by Gregorio Zanardi. We also see physicals that he posts online. Becoming a really great painter here and these really subtle colors, and even just the composition, the background, the swans, everything. Here's The Isolationist with a little shark, which kind of looks like a Roberto Nava shark or something. Not sure what's going on there. And here, really cool textures here. Nice piece from The Isolationist, a plot twist, edition of 10. And 35 Tezos. Skamra, good afternoon. So some gorgeous work here by Skamra. As you see, kind of pixelated textures, AI, stunning. Here's another one with Skamra. It's almost like Skamra's challenge now is to test the limits of texture in a sense. How far can you go before it's overly textured, right? And so now it seems to be going right to the line, not passing it. But it seems to be that is the challenge right now. And we saw those 2023 works. They're basically textureless, interestingly. This is stunning. Look at that sun and this beautiful field, but also by Skamra. Here's someone called Min Blue, Piggy Man. And we see this is a digital painting, as you can see. Pretty cool. Kind of surreal digital painting here. Interesting piece and some mushrooms here. This is an edition of 5 for 6 Tezos, none sold. So a new discovery there. Here's Oblivion Fields nesting. And here, we'll see if we can, I think it's just kind of outdoor sounds. There we go. Hear that? Kind of looks like a fish. So that goes for a minute 11. Check it out on object.com. This is an open edition for 3 Tezos, 10 minted so far. Here's BSD. I thought this was actually Oblivion Fields at first, bubblegum. And so slightly different, actually, as we see different kinds of textures here. Cool concept, right? Kind of looks like bubblegum that has been smushed, but then with all of these kind of digital aspects to it. Strawberry flavor, edition of 15 for 12 Tezos, and 6 gone so far. Oblivion Fields picking one up. Blunk, soft spike, it hurt, I hugged, and suddenly I was full of color. So interesting piece here with the pixelation and of the figure and the cactus and everything. Kind of looking like this kind of glitch, but then with this kind of TV snow put in, like animating the work, so to speak. Interesting. Edition of 3 and sold out to Fluffhead Chaser and 2 gone to this other account for only $333. So pretty reasonable. Yuri J, Seated Woman. Sorry, this is Intro Void. Picked up by Yuri J. Edition of 1. How much did this go for? 100 Tezos. It's a pretty nice piece. Nice pickup from Yuri J. Here, and as you see, sampled brushes used across and lots of texture, almost physical looking, but it's actually a repetition. Almost looks like a sample of a real-world painting, doesn't it? Pretty cool, actually. So Intro Void. Here's Benta from 2022. I would love to see more of these. These are fabulous. Here, different sampled brushes. They look fabulous. Even the person on the motorcycle. Loving seeing these on just being posted on X. 1,000 Lens, TWA Airlines. And here, another wonderfully textured work here. As you see, a cool kind of flat purple background to give it kind of breathing space and a little bit of contrast. If you did it all texture, it wouldn't work. So fabulous. Cool colors, too. Here's Musty, Livin' the Dream, edition of 10. And here, so making a slightly smaller file size. It's a little easier on the computer here, that is for sure. Nice kind of work here by Musty, isn't it? So continuing to evolve and develop here. Cool work. Livin' the Dream, edition of 10. I believe this is sold out. And this is sold at 11 Tezos. So nice to see. Here is Stéphane Pruvot. I picked this up. It was a Tezos 50, Django the Guitarist. Quite a cool piece, actually. I was thrilled to pick this up. I actually picked up 3 or 4. Nice piece, kind of a digital work. So it's Stéphane Pruvot, making art since 1985. And here is Grimm's Born Alone, Die Alone. And here a pastiche of, I'm not sure which painting, but really well done with the surveillance camera and everything. This is a great example. Like if I was forced to curate a crypto art show, I'd be like, oh, I could use this. This is great. So that is Grimm's. That is 33 Tezos and just listed. Here's Yuri J. Window number 1. And so here, as you see, wow, look at all these textures. So window number 1, look at that. So it's becoming like a very impressive, hard to compare it to anything, actually. This very textured digital painting. That is what it is. And what did it go for? 100 Tezos for edition of 12. And actually, and some of them going for 80. It's bringing in real money to Yuri J's credit. And here's another one, window number 2. Now it's 150 Tezos on secondary. Love the cat's eyes with the mosaics. The pixelation filter, I believe, which is also kind of a mosaic filter. Look at this. So Yuri J, again, kind of like Scamra. It's in a sense the challenge now. It's like going right up to the line of, you could say, too much texture, because you can put too much. And they're doing well, I would argue, for what it's worth. I would say to not cross that line. But we are going to the line. So here, what are we selling for? 80 Tezos on primary, now 150 Tezos on secondary. Rob Scalera, IL number 7. So kind of could hang in the same room, couldn't it? Slightly different, but cool kind of abstract here from Rob Scalero, July 27th, edition of 1, 30 Tezos, pretty reasonable. Here are a couple of works by Santiago, Selected Group of Vectors. I'm not sure I've seen this one. This is fabulous. I think my favorite part are these, basically the dancing ants here, which surround like these bounding boxes for the works here. Super interesting. Again, it's like revealing your process. Love it. And that picked up by Yuri J. So Yuri J doing a lot of collecting. Only 33 Tezos. What a steal. Total steals. Still deals available color ground. Also, really cool work here by Santiago, Loving or Time. Loving the experimentation here. Here's Revolue. OBGENFF1. So with, I believe, generative art, a kind of abstract here, I assume. Handmade and generative creations, no AI. Pure code without knowledge, edition of 8. Yeah, pretty cool. Here's Arts of Chet, sensitive number 13, edition of 1 for 32 Tezos. Wonderful piece here. As you see, pretty original, actually. There's a whole series. It looks like a digital painting. I think we've seen their work before. I think I've shown it before, but it's been a while. Abstract Digital Drawing 2025, 2000 by 2000. Kenji Pop with a work, and almost looks like photography, but hard to tell. Is this an abstraction? Not sure, so we'll continue to investigate Kenji Pop there. Mumble Boy, Melting Anticipation. Fabulous colors here. Almost looks like a filter is put on it. Beautiful, almost like a retro filter is on this thing. Not sure though. Looks fabulous. Another really nice piece by Mumble Boy, edition of 1 for 19 Tezos. Pretty reasonable. Here's People at Tezos. This is Bosque Gracias. What an awesome self-portrait this is. So a collage of sorts, and there you even have a little bit of the negative that we've been seeing. Probably Bosque as a child. Wonderful portrait here. Wonderful collage. Bosque Gracias. La Choza, the temple, every rural day. Also Bosque Gracias. So another wonderful juxtaposition here of photos. That's actually December 13th, 2023. So let's continue. Pamela Chirone, Kufi. So some pretty interesting yellow in the background there. Kind of spray yellow. Some nice pieces. Pamela Chirone releasing quite a few here in the last few days. Some interesting one-of-one abstracts. This is fabulous too. This is 50 Tezos. So if you're looking to fill your museum with some Pamela Chirone, there's great opportunity right now. Nice pieces here. Let's continue. People of Tezos. This is Jordi Gandul. Cool robot here for the People of Tezos, edition of 1, and they're not for sale yet. Here is Visual Spiralism, number 39, as you see here. So pretty cool illustration this is also on Object, on Tezos. I think we have another one, number 37, edition of 1, and I don't believe they're listed. I don't believe they are listed yet. So maybe you can put in an offer. Here's Louis Osborne on Zora. So we're seeing the art coins again, and they're an infinity sign. Cool variation or cool approach to the happy and sad face here. It's like the spectrum of emotion here, the happy and sad and infinite, relating infinitely, shall we say. Elna Frederick. Let's move on. You know what I love about this piece, other than the Ronald McDonald, and I'm going to pass here soon, is just this 89 in the Chan, signing it, so to speak. Pretty cool. So fun, Ronald McDonald in the race car, great piece. Neuromancer, this is on X. Good morning. I believe I follow them back. I'll have to check that. Good morning. So here we see what looks like a frame and some cacti with some pixelation. Cool, just kind of digital painting. And here is a rodeo work. So when your internet goes down, rodeo, it's like it's constantly streaming. So I should close this because it's constantly streaming data through my phone here. Very nice piece from Françoise Gamma. 57, so I mean, what is that? Maybe $15. I wonder, though, you do a one-of-one on Object, what you'd get for this. I think you'd get more than $15, I suspect. But all to say, keeping it going. And it works for Françoise Gamma because Françoise Gamma releases sometimes several works a day. So if you're getting 15 times 5, it's pretty good earnings for your art on a regular basis. Sui Soichi. This is a People at Tezos. Love this portrait. Pixelation. Looks like some noise put in there or something filling this in. And a different noise with the white background and a bit of yellow there included for good measure. So keeping it interesting. So that is an edition of 1. And that went for 25 Tezos. That's already gone. Pretty reasonable. Good deal. Element Lee, LCD Gradients. So another work by Element Lee. Love this piece here, as you see the different gradients and what looks like maybe a Game Boy discrete or screen aesthetic series, or perhaps a Game Boy, but abstracted a little bit here. Nice piece, nice color, edition of 15, 10 Tezos. And they're moving. So glad to see Element Lee back there on Object. Nicholas Dietrich update. So here's the work. We saw a little preview before and that awesome moving sky. So this is all, again, the same color purple, but at different opacities. Cool piece, right? So yeah, that color dilemma, interestingly. Like some of those other works, they use a few colors. So sticking with the monochromatic here, edition of 20, and that is sold out at 17 Tezos. So nice work there. Here is Walk with a piece. I believe this is a new one. Not sure. Maybe sunglasses. Not sure. Or happy face. Not sure. Kind of looks like sunglasses here. For Walk, this is at 10 Tezos. So you might be able to sneak in and get a good deal there. Haiti Rocket, random pixel animation. So kind of a cool pixel art experimentation from Haiti Rocket. Also putting out some cool cities. Self-Chew, I think. Sachu. Radio frequency. So cool canvas here. From Sachu, you see the radio at the bottom and some different radio, almost like Winamp over here. Edition of 15, and that is 23 Tezos and 3 gone. Here is this brilliant work by Cap'n. Brilliant. I almost started with this. Brilliant. Kind of reminds me of Vesuvius Man a little bit by Leonardo. Gorgeous. Self-portrait here. And the title is awesome too. Did this sell? Not yet. Here's Daniel W. This is On Chain. So playing with some pixel art. Very cool. From Daniel W. Edition of 1 for 55 Tezos. And here is Ed Woods, also People of Tezos. So another cool work. And again, these are, I can't put all the People of Tezos, so forgive me if you don't have your work here. Sometimes it just works with the curation and whatnot. So all to say, everybody go check out all of the People of Tezos. Going for 111 Tezos. Nice sale. Here's Austin with his animated SVG. This is brilliant. The random, incorporating randomness into the GIF. Like to me, this is, I don't know if I'd call it a paradigm shift, but we're close. We are very close. So brilliant innovation here. Looks like found on his own, right? Looking at the SVG format and realizing, hey, there's a randomize. You can randomize this thing. Good job, Jeremy Austin. Just awesome work. Here's another one. This is probably the GIF version, but I bet he uses the same thing when this is minted on chain. I'm not sure where that is. It's really going somewhere. Love it. Plus was Gamma with another work here with a big outline, big green outline, almost like an abstraction. Here's Ranga Purnam Aji, feedback drips number 43. Pretty cool, isn't it? Really nice animated abstract. Huge chunky pixels just sent to Chinaski. Pretty cool. Here's Strano with a cool animated abstract broken. Of course, I follow Strano, that is X. Let's see if I can actually finish this show without things collapsing on me here. So here is Yurin Yekon, stream number 100. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So it continues. I think this might be, I'm not sure if this is the last one or not of the streams. I thought I saw a tweet about 100 works on Tezos. Everything flows. This is Ex Mortal. So gorgeous analog video artwork here. Beautifully processed, even some pixels in there. Great color from Ex Mortal. Here's DJ Kuro. Almost looks like a car. Hard to say. Solar. So cool work here. Just what looks like another video painting, maybe using some photography, maybe some AI in there too. Not sure. Kind of a glitch work. 20 Tezos. Anima 147. This is by Sogaki. So I believe this is based on AI video and then putting it through the analog process. I believe AI generated image used to create AI animation, glitched through all these other processes. Very interesting. Here's Renki. I almost started with this too. This is gorgeous Renki work here. Just keeps going, and again, prolificness. There's the key to making masterpieces. I would argue the first thing you should do is be prolific. That is rule number one. If you want to make a masterpiece. Edition of 5, I believe unlisted. Here's Ken Consumer. I believe, out of Berlin here, I believe using a pen plotting or a paint plotter. I believe. These are great. I love how minimal. They're uncrowded. So you see the paint plotter or the paintbrush plotter at work. I believe that's what's going on here. I don't know. It could be manual. Like with his hand. Die with the most likes, more to give. Dying is not enough. This painting, again, is really going somewhere. It almost looks like medium is being used, I'd actually say. So gorgeous piece here. Makes a difference. Naked Galena, the struggle between the north and south winds. And here, another gorgeous physical. I wonder if, like Naked Galena, I think should really just say if you buy even you could do one of ones and then just say, and sell the physicals. Like if you buy the NFT, I'll send you the physical. These are gorgeous watercolors. And that is your show, my friend. I forgot the ending there. So all to say, thank you for joining me. I appreciate the support. And until next time, take care.